You're sitting in the airport, your flight is in 2 hours. Everyone around you looks completely fine, scrolling their phones, eating airport food, laughing, and you're sitting there with your heart pounding, palms already sweating, running through every possible scenario in your head of what could go wrong at 35,000 feet. And the worst part, you know flying is statistically safer than driving. You've Googled it 100 times, the logic is all there, and it still doesn't help, not even a little. So why doesn't knowing the facts make the fear go away? That's exactly what we're going to get into today. Because the fear of flying isn't really about planes, it's about something much deeper going on in your brain. And by the end of this video, you're finally going to understand why your brain does this and what it actually means about you. Now, a lot of people treat flight anxiety like it's a quirk, like you just need to drink a glass of wine and calm down. But psychologists have spent decades studying this, and what they've found is genuinely fascinating. This isn't a weakness. This isn't irrationality. This is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, just in the wrong situation. I've gone deep on the research here, and what I'm going to share with you today goes way beyond just breathe. We're talking about why certain brains are actually wired to struggle with flying, specifically, what's happening in your nervous system in real time, and the psychological pattern that keeps the fear locked in place even when you desperately want it gone. Let's get into it. Here's the thing most people don't understand about fear. Your brain doesn't care whether something is actually dangerous. It only cares whether it feels dangerous. Deep inside your brain, there's a structure called the amygdala. Think of it as your brain's alarm system. Its entire job is to scan for danger and sound the alarm before your thinking brain even has a chance to weigh in. It's fast, it's automatic, and it is not interested in statistics. So when you're sitting in that airplane seat and the door closes, your amygdala isn't thinking the odds of this going wrong are 1 in 11 million. It's feeling the vibration of the engines, the unfamiliar sounds, the fact that you are in a metal tube with zero control and zero ability to exit, and it is screaming. And here's what makes this really interesting. The fear of flying isn't actually one fear. It's usually 3 or 4 fears layered on top of each other. There's the fear of crashing, obviously, but underneath that, for most people, there's the fear of losing control, the fear of being trapped, sometimes even the fear of having a panic attack in front of strangers, and all of those fears are feeding each other in a loop. Your brain sends out the alarm, your body responds, heart rate goes up, muscles tense, breathing gets shallow, and then your brain notices those physical symptoms and goes, see, something is wrong, which makes the fear worse, which makes the symptoms worse. Psychologists call this the anxiety spiral. And once you're in it, logic cannot reach you, because the part of your brain that processes logic isn't even fully online when the threat response is activated. You literally cannot think your way out of it at that moment. Now here's something that might surprise you. Not everyone's nervous system responds to flying the same way, and research suggests that people who hate flying often have something in common that has nothing to do with planes at all. There's a trait that about 20% of the population carries called sensory processing sensitivity. It basically means your nervous system picks up more stimulation, more environmental data, more subtle signals from the world around you. The flickering lights, the hum of the engine, the slight turbulence, the facial expression of the flight attendant. Your brain is registering all of it, cataloging all of it, and trying to make sense of all of it simultaneously. For most people on that plane, their brain filters most of that out. For you, it's all coming through at full volume. And there's something else. People who grew up in unpredictable environments, homes where things felt unstable, where you learned early that situations could change without warning, often develop what psychologists describe as a heightened sensitivity to situations where they have no control. Because here's what a plane is. At its core, it is the ultimate no control situation. You cannot pull over, you cannot get out, you cannot do anything to influence the outcome. You are completely at the mercy of other people, mechanical systems, and conditions you can't see. For someone whose nervous system learned early that unpredictability equals danger, that feeling isn't just uncomfortable. It's activating something very old and very deep. Here's where it gets really interesting. Most people who are scared of flying spend a lot of mental energy trying to manage their fear before the flight even happens. They research safety records, they study turbulence, they pick specific seats, they track the weather at their destination, they watch videos about how planes work, and this feels productive. It feels like they're doing something, but psychologically, what it's actually doing is reinforcing the idea that there is something to be afraid of. Every time your brain spends energy preparing for a threat, it files that away as confirmation. Your brain goes, "We clearly needed to prepare for this, which means this is dangerous." You've accidentally trained yourself to treat flying as a high-stakes event that requires maximum vigilance. Psychologists call this safety behavior. And the cruel irony of safety behavior is that it maintains the fear. The very thing you're doing to feel safer is what keeps the fear alive. It's like if you were scared of dogs, and every time you walk down the street you cross the road to avoid one, you'd feel relieved in the moment, but your brain would never get the chance to learn that the dog is actually fine. The fear never gets updated. The same thing happens with flying. Every time you white knuckle through a flight using distraction, alcohol, white knuckling the armrests, you survive the flight, but your brain doesn't record flying is safe. It records, "I survived because I stayed on high alert the whole time." The belief stays locked in place. Let's talk about turbulence specifically, because for a lot of people, turbulence isn't just uncomfortable, it's the moment everything breaks down completely. And this is fascinating from a psychological standpoint. Turbulence is, almost without exception, not dangerous. Pilots fly through it routinely. Planes are engineered to handle forces far beyond what normal turbulence produces. There are incredibly few incidents in aviation history caused by turbulence alone, but your brain doesn't experience turbulence as data. It experiences it as confirmation. You are already on edge. You are already scanning for signs that something might go wrong, and then the plane shakes, and your amygdala goes, "There it is. This is exactly what I was warning you about." What's happening in your body at that moment is a full stress response. Adrenaline releases. Your vision narrows, your breathing changes, your heart pounds, you might feel dizzy or nauseous, and all of these physical symptoms feel like proof that the situation is genuinely dangerous, even though they're entirely caused by your own fear response, not by any actual threat. This is one of the cruelest things about anxiety. The symptoms of fear feel indistinguishable from symptoms of genuine danger. Your body doesn't know the difference. So the fear becomes self-referential. You're scared because you feel scared. Now I want to go somewhere a little deeper here, because I think this is the piece most people have never heard before. For a lot of people, the fear of flying isn't really the core issue. It's a surface expression of something underneath. Researchers who study anxiety patterns have found that flight phobia frequently coexists with what they call a fragile sense of control in daily life. People who feel reasonably in control of their circumstances day to day, their routines, their relationships, their environment, can often get on a plane just fine, even if they don't love it. But people who are already carrying background anxiety, people who feel like they're holding a lot together, people who feel like one wrong move could make something fall apart, for those people flying becomes almost symbolic. It's the moment where the illusion of control completely drops away and there's nowhere to hide. And this might be why the fear so often gets worse during stressful life periods. New job, difficult relationship, financial pressure, a season of life where things feel unstable. Suddenly the flying that was manageable before becomes unbearable, because it was never really about the plane. It was about how safe and grounded and in control you feel in your life. And the plane is just where that feeling gets exposed. There's also something worth naming here about the thought patterns that tend to go with flight anxiety. People who struggle with this tend to be deep thinkers, detailed thinkers, people who run scenarios, who plan, who anticipate. These are genuinely valuable traits in most areas of life. But on a plane, where there is nothing to plan and nothing to control, those same qualities become the engine of the anxiety. You can't turn the thinking off, so the thinking turns on itself. So what do you do with all of this? Here's the truth that most advice about flight anxiety misses entirely. You cannot logic your way out of this. You cannot research your way out of this. You cannot white knuckle your way to having it stop. Because the fear doesn't live in the part of your brain that responds to logic. What actually changes flight anxiety, what the research consistently points to, is something called exposure with new information. Not just exposure, not just getting on the plane and surviving, but getting on the plane in a state where your nervous system has a chance to genuinely learn something new. What that looks like in practice is learning to work with your nervous system instead of fighting it. Understanding that the physical sensations of anxiety, the pounding heart and shallow breathing, are not evidence of danger. They are the activation of a very old survival system that is trying to protect you, and thanking it for that, and then gently redirecting it. Slow, extended exhales, longer out, then indirectly activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the calming branch, your body's built-in off switch for the threat response. Not because it's a trick, but because the breathing pattern literally sends a different signal to your brain. Naming what's happening, this is my amygdala, this is my threat response, this is anxiety, not danger, actually reduces amygdala activation. There's neuroimaging research on this. The act of labeling the emotion engages the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, and that brings the alarm system down slightly. And over time, not overnight, but over time, your brain can build a new file. One that says, we got on the plane, it was uncomfortable, and we were okay. But the deeper work, the thing that makes the biggest difference long term, is usually addressing what's underneath. The overall sense of safety in your life, the relationship with uncertainty, the ability to tolerate not being in control. Because when those things shift, the flying tends to get easier too. You're not broken for being scared of flying. Your brain is doing its job, it's just working from old data. And old data can be updated. If this resonated with you, it probably means you're someone whose brain works in a very particular way, someone who feels things deeply, thinks in patterns, and carries more awareness than most. And there's a whole psychology to that. Subscribe if you want to keep going deeper on these kinds of topics, because that's exactly what this channel is for.